Graphic warning. In this tutorial, I use special effects makeup, which contains imagery some may say is graphic. This is to simulate blood, insects, and clusters of holes. So if you're not into that, please skip today's video. Welcome back for day 29 of my 31 Days of Halloween series. We're in the final stretch now! If you guys wanted to see how I did this truly disgusting makeup look, then keep on watching. Product details and all that fun stuff will be in the video description below. Let's get started. To get started, this look takes a lot of prep work. So what I'm first creating here is all of the little maggots. So these are all the tools and materials you may want to use as you make them. You don't have to use all of these, but I just wanted to play around with the different techniques. So I'm first off going to take some faux flesh modeling wax, and you're going to roll it between your fingers into a sort of rice shape. I would recommend swiping some Vaseline on your fingers as you do this because this wax is super sticky. And you can also vary them in size. I'm then taking one of them and rolling them on a very thick bristled brush to kind of create grooves, or you can create grooves with a spatula or on the spine of a thick book. I'm then taking some alcohol activated paints and painting them how I like. So I ended up painting them more of a fleshy pus color. That sounds so gross. And made sure to paint one of the ends a little bit darker. And you just repeat that process until you're happy with the number of them. Now moving on to the eye prosthetic, I decided to do a very cheap and easy process of it. You're gonna need some modeling clay and a sculpting tool. And what you're gonna do is basically sculpt out an eye shape. Make sure you know which eye you want to cover ahead of time and sculpt the correct eye. I almost did this incorrectly. So you're gonna lay out a piece of clay, approximately the size that you want to cover up. Then you're gonna want to take your sculpting tool and blend out the edges so that it's a seamless transition to your skin. Next step is to carve away the spot where your eye hole is going to be. I probably should have done mine a little bit larger just because of how large my eyes are, but I was just winging it. And then you're going to want to create the upper and lower lids by rolling a piece of clay and then blending out the edges as well. To smooth out the edges even further, you can take a little bit of 99% isopropyl alcohol and blend that out with your finger. To create pores, I'm just stippling a thick brush on top and making sure I powder it before I move on to the latex. Taking a cosmetic sponge, I'm stippling about 7 to 10 layers of latex on, allowing drying time in between. Also, you're going to want to powder this really well as you pull it up from the clay on both sides so that it doesn't stick to itself. To start the application off, I decided to take some grease paints and create little tiny blue and red veins. I'm also taking a little bit of purple and a little bit of red and putting them in the recesses of my face. The goal of the overall base makeup is to make you look really tired and really grungy. I'm also speckling a little bit of red grease paint around my eyes to make it look like I have broken capillaries. Then take a little bit of a dark gray eyeshadow and apply that to the bags of your eyes to make you look even more tired. I also decided to add more veins around my mouth and on my neck just to make me look even more crazy. Then for the actual application process of the holes, you can apply a little bit of spirit gum, wait a few seconds for it to dry a little, and then tap it out with your finger to make it get a little tacky. Then you can grab a ball of modeling wax and spread it out over the area. You're going to see really quick how difficult wax can be to work with. In fact, a lot of artists don't like working with it because of how difficult it can be. I might be one of those artists. But blend it out the best you can. You can also use some Vaseline to smooth it out as well. Then to add a little bit more texture, I'm taking just a black stipple sponge and tapping that over it. before cutting off one end of a Q-tip, dipping it in Vaseline, and then puncturing the wax to make the holes. My biggest tip for this is to take your time with it and be as gentle as you possibly can. I had a lot of trouble, especially with the part right next to my mouth. I had to apply it about 3 different times to get it right. But just make sure as you pull the Q-tip out of the hole, you're not pulling it out on an angle at all so that it doesn't rip the wax off. Continue this for all other portions of your face that you want to have wax on. You can see me applying probably the 3rd try at the ball of wax around my mouth. So once you have all the holes punctured out, you're going to want to dab a little bit of powder on it. And just to secure the wax onto my face a little bit better, I'm taking a small amount of liquid latex on another cosmetic sponge and dabbing that around the edges of every wax piece. For the eye prosthetic, I just figured out where I wanted to lay it down before taking some Pros-Aid and putting some just around my eye, not actually on my lid or anything, so I could still move my eyelid underneath the prosthetic piece. And then I laid the prosthetic piece down once it got tacky and dried a little. Then went over the edges with a little bit of liquid latex again to secure them and blend them into my skin a bit better. Then I took my alcohol activated paints again and did a little bit of a flush toned wash over the wax before taking some blood toned alcohol paints and coloring in each and every hole. I go in with a lighter red first and then deepen it up with some darker and then finally a little bit of black. Make sure you powder the eye prosthetic before you move on to paints for it. But I ended up painting the eye socket red first before taking some Pros-Aid and attaching the wax on that way instead. It was actually a lot of fun to sculpt the eye portion of the wax because it fit in the socket pretty easily and just looks so gross, as you can see. But anyways, you want to repeat the same hole making process as you did for the rest of your face. Be very gentle with it, especially since this is over your eye. And I just sealed it in with some liquid latex before painting the heck out of my eyeball. I attached all the faux maggots on with a little bit of Pros-Aid. And to make them appear as if they're coming out or they're deeper into your skin, you can even cut them in half and apply them that way. It's like giving little homes to these guys. For an added little touch, I took a little bit of an SFX gel that's going to make it look like it's all wet. You can also use some lube if you want. And then you can add touches of blood here and there and some scab blood as well. To make the liquid blood appear more realistic, you can dab some excess off with a little tissue. And there you have it. You've become infested. See you guys tomorrow.